Welcome to Stories of Brisco and Bradshaw. I would be Bradshaw. That would be your Chickasaw native, your Chickasaw Hall of Famer, Oklahoma's favorite son, Mr. Gerald Brisco. And this man's son may be Oklahoma's favorite son coming up. He is from ripping frying pans in half to lifting the Thomas unliftable dumbbell to being the world's strongest man, to being a WWE Hall of Famer, to being the man from Silsbee, Texas. He is the world's strongest man, Mr. Mark Henry, and he's from God bless Texas. Mark, welcome to the show.
Man, thank y'all for having me, man.
It's great
Mark,
to have you, and it's great to have you here against Mr. Brisco because I have to put up with this Okie all the dang time, and it's good to have a good East Texas friend here with me. He was
Bless
talking
your
about your
heart.
Whataburger, that they actually had a Whataburger special for you. He said he'd been through the Silsbee Whataburger.
Wow. I
yeah,
tell you what, now I got to go down there and get one.
I told you about it. Me and Bruce Pritchard, of all people, he knows wherever Whataburger is in the state of Texas, I think. And speaking of having Whataburger named after him, but we went to Selby, Texas. We're leaving Houston and we're going through Selby, going somewhere. I don't know, probably Louisiana.
Probably Shreveport.
Shreveport, going to Louisiana, and we stopped in Selby. And there's a Whataburger. Bruce knew right where it was. So we didn't go through the drive-through. We went in and talked to the people there. So I was ordering my double jalapeno and everything, and they said, "Hey, you guys are wrestlers, right?" Yeah. Why? She said, Mark Henry comes in here all the time. Mark Henry is one of my favorite people of all time. I said, does he have a special burger? And yes, he does. It's a triple
Triple.
jalapeno. Got all the fixings on it. She described it as, man, almost changed my order from double to triple, but I know I couldn't eat a Mark Henry Whataburger, man. So, but anyway,
Hey,
speaking of
hey, if
Oklahoma,
you got a Whataburger named after you in Texas, you're on the level of Nolan Ryan and Earl Campbell. I
and
mean
Earl
that you
Campbell,
don't
yeah.
get any higher than Whataburger naming something after you.
John, have you ever been to Silsbee, Texas, though?
I have been to Silsbee, Texas.
It's a highway.
It's
It's the highway. Yeah, it's like Sweetwater. You blink and you miss it.
Yeah.
kind of like all of our hometown, Bowlegs, Oklahoma. We don't even have a highway there. You
Three
know?
lights.
You
Three
got three
lights. You
lights
come through
now.
those three lights and you're out of Silsbee.
Yeah. Well, Bruce knew right where that. I guess you just got to stay by the red lights to get to the Whataburger there in Silsbee, right? Let's give her a plug there.
You know what? I love the fact that that town is a small community because everybody knows everybody, and like I support the little dribblers and the Boys and Girls Club, and I've been sponsoring the little dribblers team for the last 5 years, and
What is a
they've
little
won.
dribblers? Obviously, a basketball team. I would.
Well, we always have great basketball because our little dribblers program runs the same plays as the middle school and the high school. And when those kids get to middle school and high school, they already know the plays. It's just a matter of, are you big enough? And so they just competed in the state championship this year against that team in Dallas. That's really a junior college. They recruit and they don't even have classes. Everything is done online. I don't really consider it fair. Silsbee lost to them back-to-back years in the state championship, and they're a really good program. My youngest cousin, Jared Harris, was the star of the team, and he's going to Memphis this year. And him and Jacob grew up together, and it's been real good watching him develop too.
Well, then let's talk about Jacob. Mentioned Jacob. For y'all that don't know that, that's Jacob Henry, one of the next rising stars in amateur wrestling. Unfortunately, at the University of Oklahoma. So, kind of tell us about a little bit about Jacob. I mean, as you know, I've been a supporter of Jacob ever since. And when you called me and told me I got an OU offer, I started working the phones that day, and I worked them right up to the moment where you finally called me and said, "Hey, he signed a deal." Yeah,
Yeah.
they have it. So tell us a little bit about your son. What's he doing? And he's a huge young man, and what an athlete. But not only in the sport of wrestling, but he was all-state football player, both offensive, played both ways on a very accomplished team also, right? Fill us in
Yeah,
about
he made All-America in track. Um, made All-State in wrestling. Like he's a good athlete, and he's only been wrestling for 4 years.
wow.
The only reason that we got into wrestling was because of football, just for conditioning. And one of the wrestling coaches was a football player too. And he was like, "Man, I want Jacob to work on his leverage. You should bring him in a few times a week and let him roll around with me because he was a heavyweight. He was a big guy." And Jacob started going in there, and they would work on wrestling, and then they would do football stuff. And then he slowly started to say, "Mark, like Jacob is getting it. Like he understands. Um, he just don't know how to." He said, "You give me 3 more years with him, then he'll win state." And that's exactly what happened.
That's
Wow.
exactly what happened. And I was fortunate enough where you trusted me enough where you would send me videos and I'd sit down there and with Brad, I said,
Yeah.
watch his footwork here, watch his body, watch his trunk, and have him work on that. And sure enough, he would improve it. He had some fantastic
Every
coaches.
year. And I
Every
thank you for that too, because, a lot of times people don't get their flowers. Um, and I owe John a big thanks too, because John was one of those guys that when I first came into wrestling, my head was too big. And he was one of those that was like, "Look, this ain't coming from a place of hate or I don't like you. It's just you don't know what the hell you're doing and you act like you do." And a lot of athletes, like real athletes, will take that as fuel and go to work. The majority of people can't take it. They cry, whine, and complain. And that's exactly what you did for Jacob. Every time that I would sit down with Jacob and say, "Hey, I talked to Mr. Briscoe, and he said you need to do this." And he was like, "Yeah, my coach has told me." I said, "Well, it's coming from both sides. I'm he's telling me what I sent on the videos." And Coach Sion, who I thank God for him too. Thank you for introducing us, because without him, I know for a fact Jacob wouldn't have been the wrestler that he became.
Sion's outstanding. He was coached by Bobby Douglas, of course, who had a hand in both my brother and my amateur wrestling career at Oklahoma State University. So I knew when you told me Sion was there, and I knew Sion was living in the same area as you. So I contacted him through that Flow Wrestling, and he jumped on it. So thank him too. I was talking to Sion yesterday about the Olympic wrestling and now on TV this week here.
Yeah,
But
he's a good dude, man. My wife,
yeah.
like the people that like I like a lot of people that my wife don't tolerate. But Sion, if I said, "Hey, I'm going to see Coach," good, good. Tell him I said hello. Well,
Yeah.
we're going to the moon. Ooh, you better take a jacket. It's probably cold up
He's a good man. But anyway, Mark, growing up in a little town, Silsbee, Texas, and tell us a little bit about Mark Henry growing up. And tell us about your uncle that's 6'7", 400, almost pushing 500 pounds. Where that size and that strength probably came from in your
Hey,
family. Tell us.
before you do, Mark, I want to mention before you get off Jacob. I was at Cleveland this weekend with Ron Simmons, and that young man, I fell in love with him. He had so much respect. He's obviously got a father that taught him very well, but he came up and introduced himself to me and Ron. Lex Luger was there, introduced himself to everybody. Just as nice and polite a young man as you could ever want. He just
there. Thank you.
John, he has the same charisma as his dad and his mom, doesn't he?
absolutely. You could tell that man was loaded with charisma, and you could tell he's coming by. He's very humble and very nice. He talked to us, very articulate, just like Mark. Very well spoken. When he left, me and Ron both said, "What a good young man." You want to root for a guy like that.
How the hell is that Mark Henry's kid?
Exactly.
No, but Gerald, my uncle Chud was my grandmother's favorite cousin. He died before I was born. 6'7", like, 450, almost 500 pounds. Never wore shoes, always wore moccasins, was famous in East Texas because he was a lumberjack. He hauled pulpwood. And a lot of times, when you work in the woods, they would cut trees and you couldn't get machines in there. And she used to tell us how that they would put chains and around the trees that was deep in the woods, and they would run pipes like through the chain, and he would pull them out manually.
Wow.
And was, I mean, like, strengths, the stuff I used to say, man, that's bullshit, But as I got older and I started feeling the kind of strength that I had, I mean, he was a bigger guy than me, so I can see him doing some of the things because a lot of it also is ingenuity and technique. So he, being a lumberjack and a guy that worked in the woods, he knew what the hell he was doing. But you talked about like Chud. Chud was before athletics. Like, we have our family won more Super Bowls than the Mannings. We got guys in our family. I guess the best is Michael Strahan. In the Hall of Fame, one of the best defensive football players of all time. And then on the other side of the he's an Adams, like my grandmother and like Chud Adams. That's where Michael comes from.
Wow.
And on the other side, on my father's side, my cousin Kevin played for Bill Cowher, won 2 Super Bowls on that defensive line with Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green. He was number 76, defensive tackle. Next to, and a lot of people say that my brother was better than both of those guys. Pat was all Southwest Conference 3 years in a row.
This is your brother, Pat?
Yeah.
Wow.
Made the NCAA College Super Bowl team, the top 22 players in college. Man, any accolade that you can put up there, Pat made at defensive line, other than winning the Outland or the other defensive trophy. I'm forgetting now, but he was the MVP before of the Southwest Conference on defense. Like, Pat was a really, really good football player, had a career-ending injury, and blew his elbow out and lost, feeling in his hands.
Where do you have the injury? High school or college?
He had it in college.
Had he been drafted yet?
No, he didn't. He
didn't make it.
He wasn't there. Pat was also undersized defensive tackle. He reminded me. The only person that I look at and go, wow, that dude looked like my brother, was Warren Sapp.
Wow.
Just really explosive and fast. Ran a 4.7 40 at 285. Wow. And just a man.
All Southwest Conference. What school did he play for?
He was at Texas A&M.
A&M. Wow.
So he made All-American.
He had to have the brains of the family too, I guess, if he went to A&M.
You know what? He was tailor-made to go to A&M because his aspirations were to drive a tractor when he was done. I had zero thoughts about driving a damn tractor when I was done with whatever I was doing.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your football.
It just pisses me off to no end that Texas doesn't play A&M anymore during the regular season. That was
it's going to happen.
It will, and it's going to mean a lot now that it does.
Yeah, they working on an A&M rivalry. A&M ran from Texas, and they just now it's even worse.
Speaking of Texas, I got a nephew that's playing for Colorado State Rams, and they're playing Texas. I think in the second or third game of the
Bless his
season.
heart.
Yeah, he well, no, Mark, he's up for the Remington Award as the
Oh
top one of the
wow.
top damn centers in the country. So bless that Longhorn's heart that's going to get wiped out by Brisco. You know, and most Texans.
ain't no Longhorn getting wiped
Well,
out by no Brisco.
Well,
hey, they're not gonna
he's a
keep this.
Gardner anyway. His name is Jacob Gardner, number 75. He's a 4-year starter. Started every game but two his entire career. And those were injury games, and he got moved around from center to tackle because somebody got hurt over on tackle. He went over and filled in for them. And now he's back, but the school has put him up for the Remington Award, his conference here. But yeah, bless him, like you say, when he hooks up with those Longhorns down there in Austin, Texas. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
at
gonna
least you got
concentrate
somebody to
on the
cheer for.
scoreboard rather than the stat sheet. How many pancake blocks he had?
Yeah. Well, look him up, man. He don't allow it if he's up for that award. You know that yourself. So
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I watched Colorado play uh, Colorado State last year,
and
and
Jacob started that game. He was the one bright spot to Colorado. That Colorado State just about upset him, man.
yeah, that was all. That was they should have won that game. It was just a knockout, drag out game. But I'm gonna have to go back and look at it again, uh, just so I can see who he is.
Well, you'll know right away. Number 75, Jacob McGard, Big Jacob. But anyway, your football days growing up there, your football career was cut short by an injury, also, right?
Yeah, well, I broke my wrist. I made all district my junior year, and I had a disagreement with my coach. They wanted me to hurry up and come back from an injury, me breaking my wrist, and I said no. I got to think about getting healed up for after football. I had lifting, and the coach went off on me. He was like, "Fuck that! Like we don't give a shit about no lifting." Like it was very selfish. And I said, "Well, I tell you what. Um, since I'm a problem, then I'm not gonna play football." I turned in all my shit, and I started walking home. And now he's driving behind me because one, I had made all this year before, but also he was worried about what my mama was gonna do.
Yeah.
And like he was kept trying to give me a ride. Get in the truck. I'll take you on. Nah, I walk. I walk. I'm bullheaded.
Yeah.
I always have
How
been.
far was it?
It was probably about a mile and a half. And and I walked every damn step. And when I got to my front door, he was at the door talking to my mom. And my mom said, "Come in the house." And I was like, I said, I don't know why. And she said, "Listen, you talk when I tell you to talk, and everything will be all right." And I told her what happened, and he said just that. He was like, "You know what? I might have made a mistake, but we all make mistakes, and I want Mark to keep playing." And she said, "But he's hurt." And I said, "Yeah, but he don't care. He don't care that I'm hurt. He ain't worried about me. He worried about football. Now he worried about who's gonna play guard because Perry Jones is not me." And like now he's quiet, and he said, "Well, I'm not gonna interfere with y'all dinner. Like I just wanted to let you know you're welcome to the team. I apologize for getting angry, and you know what? I still talk to the coach today. Like it ain't no hard feelings. It's just that we make mistakes, and you cannot talk to a kid like they're an item. Like I told my daughter today, she had her first taste of rejection. Like she did all this training during the summer and she didn't make the volleyball team. And I said, you know, Joe, that's a common story.
Yeah.
I said, I know so many athletes that didn't make the team. I said, hell, you better than Michael Jordan? He didn't make the team as a sophomore.
Right.
I said, you're not better. I said, you go and you work harder and you need to go tell the coach. I said, the only thing that's going to make you feel better, knowing that you feel like there's somebody out there on that team that they pick that's better than you and you're better than them, is you go tell them, listen, I know for a fact that you got 5 girls y'all picked that's not better than me. And I'm going to show you that you should have picked me. Tell them. Because that's the stuff that drives you. And it forces you. It forces you to live up to what you say. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do it, then they was right. Are they right? And she was like, no. I said, well, let's go to work. But that's what my kids get with me, because there's no off ramps to the highway of sports or life. And every time I failed in wrestling, I got my ass up and I got better. And I thank God that I had it out with Shawn Michaels and them and the Click dudes, because I ended up getting shipped off to Canada. Mm-hmm. And when I got to Canada, Stu Hart and Leo Burke was there waiting on me. God rest his soul, Leo died last week.
Right.
And like them dudes, they didn't judge me. They didn't rib me about money. They just said, listen, you on an equal footing with all these young guys here. He said, if you come here with attitude, you can take your ass home. He's like, every day we get here, we work till we puke, and then we start practice. I lost 70 pounds.
Really?
70. Wow. And then I was bored as hell. So I would go over to the Hart House and watch the wrestlers and boxers with Stu. And Stu Hart asked me, did I know how to fight? And I said, yeah, I know how to fight. And I said, I've been fighting my whole life. He said, all right, come on, let's go. And there was a guy named Rodney Blackbeard that was trained by Bad News Brown that was in one of his classes. And I had never put on a headgear. I didn't know how to put a headgear on. Man, that dude was whooping my ass. He said, you don't know how to fight. You just overpower people. He said, come here, let me show you some stuff. And Stu started showing me how to fight. So it was like, I knew for a fact that I was going to be better just because I didn't know what a chokehold felt like. How am I supposed to sell it if I don't know what it really feels like? I never been in a front face lock before or a rear chin. I didn't know. I couldn't tell you what they were if you told me. So it's a lot like the WWE, for all that the WWE did good with me, they also did me a disservice. They put me on there with people like John, who I didn't deserve to be in the ring with. Like, it was a risk for John to be wrestling with me in 96, 97, 96. John, you remember that match we had in Tyler? And
yeah,
you told
sure
me,
do.
you said, Mark, take the stairs.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yes. Yes.
I'm like, take the stairs. And he grabbed the back of my head. And I said, oh, okay, I get it. And Gerald, you remember them blue stairs?
Oh, yeah.
John did like this, and he didn't push my head down. I did it. And I was
Yeah.
like, bang.
Didn't put
And
his hands down, nothing.
John, I mean, it was like the cartoons. You ever seen when Bugs Bunny get hit and a knot go? I had a knot an inch away from my head, and it was bleeding. And I turned around and I was dizzy. And John said, "You all right?" And I went, "What?"
What?
We going home.
Yeah. Yeah. I had no idea he didn't know how to take the stairs. I said, take the stairs. And Mark goes, okay. And it went through his head. It sounded like a gun going off. Bam! I go, oh my God, I think he's dead.
Wow.
Oh my God, man. I didn't
Blood's
know
coming down.
shit.
He's got a goose egg right away. I mean, it came up like that. Bam!
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And to go from being that guy to not knowing what you're doing to where I ended up is only a product of hard work and determination.
Yeah,
Exactly,
that's right.
hard work. Take us back though, Mark. I mean, back you mentioned your high school football coach and giving you grief about not caring about. Were you already a weightlifting champion? Were you already like a world class weightlifter?
Yeah, I was the junior world champion.
During the
I won the junior nationals when I was a sophomore,
Yeah.
and I won the junior nationals, or the junior national and the junior worlds. And I won the junior nationals as a junior, but the
Wow.
worlds hadn't come up yet.
Uh,
And I ended up healing up, and I won the junior worlds that year too.
you
And
mentioned
I
your mom.
ringside Germany.
You mentioned your mom brought you your first set of weights here. How did that come about? I mean, what interest did you show? I mean, what precipitated that move by your mom?
I was attracted to the weightlifting in the Olympics, and I saw the Olympics in '76 and in 1980, and I begged Gerald.
Mhm.
Kids want Tonka toys and big wheels and shit. I ain't want none of that shit.
You wanted that Weeder 125 pound set of
Man,
weights.
I wanted them John Weider concrete weights with the
Concrete with a plastic around them.
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
plastic on them. Yeah,
Yep.
I wanted them weights, and I begged for them, and she wouldn't buy them. And then finally in '82, she bought the weights, and like you supposed to cycle, like do a little bit of training like this, and then the next day maybe do something different. And I squatted every day. And the only way that I could do a squat was I had to do a good morning because it was a bench press. So a lot of the stuff that I did, I taught myself the hard way. And then once I got to high school or middle school, man, I they had the machines. We didn't have no free weights. And the first day that I went in there, I could do the full stack on everything. And the coaches were like, "Hey, y'all seeing this?
You see this
Like,
kid
holy
over here?
shit!" Like, they was like blown away. And that it just so happened that same year they had a student teacher that played football at the University of Houston, Craig McGallion, come into Silsbee because he wanted to be a coach, and his dad was a superintendent, and so he got the Bronny James treatment. They gave him a job. And he came over there and was looking at all the middle school kids because he wanted to scout and see who was worth anything. He saw me and was like, "Listen, uh, what's your name again?" And he talked to me. And when he asked about me, everybody told him, "Oh no, oh no, no, not him. No, that boy ain't nothing but trouble."
Were you in a lot of trouble back then, Mark?
Yeah, man, I was at Hardin County Correctional, in and out of there,
No, not Mark Henry.
man, for stealing, for fighting. Um, I guess the final straw, there was a boy that, he used to call me Blackie. And I just fucking hated that boy. I just hated him. And he was a black dude.
It's black.
And he just kept calling me black. And I held his face in a mud puddle. And
Tried to drown him, huh?
I tried to drown his ass. And so his parents tried to press charges on me. So I went to Koontz, which that's where the correctional facility was. And the judge told me, he said, hey, this is it. He said, the next time you come in my courtroom, he said, I'm going to charge you like an adult. You act like one, I'm going to treat you like one. And I was like, and now it was like God saying, you know what, Mark, maybe I'm going to send you somebody to take care of that, but you got to do all the right things. And Craig was like, look, man, nobody don't want you to, nobody don't want you around. Like, you like that? That's horrible. He's like, you got more talent than all of them combined, and you over here screwing it off. He's like, can you do this and not get in trouble? Because if you can come play football and lift weights with me, you're going to be something. You're going to be special. And he was like, but if you screw up, I might get fired too. He said, I'm putting my name on the line, man. And I was like, damn, I had never had nobody go to bat for me.
That first guy that had your back, huh?
Yep. Yep. And he was right.
That's so important. That's so important in kids' lives. You just need somebody. It can be anybody. It can be a parent. It can be somebody. You need somebody to let you know that they care about you and they love you. And sometimes that's enough.
Yeah, John, I read the articles about you helping these kids. Like, man, I told you when I first heard about it, John, you ain't got to buy me no ticket. I got enough miles to fly anywhere on earth. If you doing something with them kids, you can always call me. I'm gonna be on the way. Did I not?
You did, absolutely, 100%.
And I meant that shit.
And you told me that many times.
I meant it because, like, I got saved because there was somebody that didn't look like me, didn't know me. All he said was, you better than you been. And I see you got gifts. I don't want you to waste them. And I was like, wow. And like that meant a lot to me. I talked to him, Craig McGallion, I talked to him before the documentary came out on A&E, probably about a month ago. And I told him, I said, hey, man, I start this documentary talking about you because that's the truth. That's where my real start came. And he was just blown away and emotional. I said, bro, you are responsible for helping create one of the best athletic stories of all time.
Yep.
And I know that he didn't have that in his mind at first. He just saw that it needed to be done. And like I love the fact that both of y'all do that. Like everybody, you call all us sons because like when you were booking, you mentored all of us. And I remember, hey, and by the way, can you call the WWE and tell them that all of those fines for being late was not my fault? Those were Dwayne's fault. And I was always trying to be on time.
And Dwayne got the money to pay it. He should pay you back.
Oh, shit. He probably would owe me. Jack, between the Jacks, between this one and Jack Lanza, I probably spent 16,000.
Jerry, don't feel bad about that. That's the world's strongest man you're finding.
That's 1,500, Henry. Yeah. I wasn't even driving. Get in the car with somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lessons learned, right?
And Dwayne don't care. Something else. What a great thing it is to have somebody look out for you. And I just, it's fun when you called me and asked me to be on this podcast. I was like, how in the hell can I say no?
Yeah.
Like it's two people that helped me be who I became. Like I'm a lot of things I am, but not loyal is not one of them. Like I'm loyal to a fault. I've gotten in trouble being loyal to some people that I probably should have let them fail. My wife tell me all the time, "You're too kind." You
You
know,
are, you're a very kind person, and I'm glad you chose the path there that you chose, man. And
Yeah, hey Jerry, I am too because I want to tell you a little story. This jumps way ahead, but we were in a locker one time, and somebody had I think it was Arn Anderson had locked his bag in the locker and had a combination lock on it, like the old high school, lock, And so the lock when it closed, it locked. I think it was Arn. I'm not sure, but anyway, they got the crowbar and they trying to pull this locker off its hinges. So Ron's sitting there, goes, "Wait till Mark gets here. Wait till Mark gets here." Mark walked in and said, Ron said, "Mark, pull that locker off." Mark put a towel on top of the locker, put a towel on the locker itself, and ripped that locker off its hinges. And
wow.
when he did, we all said, "Mark, if we've ever offended you, we
Yeah.
want to apologize right now."
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like that.
oh man, oh my gosh.
Ron told me the story this weekend about you ripping the frying pan in half for the shoot, and Ron was sitting there asking Bruce Pritchard. He goes,
Yeah.
"Where's the gimmick frying pan?" Bruce goes, "Well, this is it." Ron goes, "That's not gimmicked." I go, "That's Mark. Mark's gonna rip it." And Ron goes, "No, he's not." And then when he ripped it, Ron's like, "Oh my god."
And that was Vince trying to rib me because
I was there. I remember that. I was right there.
Really, I didn't know that part of it.
I would buy they would go to like the cheapo facto frying pans and I would buy like 10 of them and then I'd roll them and throw them to people and stuff. And Vince was like, let's get one that he can't bend. I
Yeah.
want you to go and here and it was like stainless steel. It wasn't like one of those non-stick pans like I would buy the cheap ones. And I looked and it had like metal bracketing and stuff. And that's not the one we used on TV. The one we did on use on TV was just a shade better than the ones that I used for show. But that one that I started trying to bend and I couldn't bend it, John, I never felt so embarrassed in my life.
Yeah.
And then
You were so mad. I remember you coming. You were pissed off, brother.
man, I looked at it and I was like, I'm here now. And I started cranking on it, man. That shit was making a sound like the space shuttle was coming back into orbit. It was like it was crazy. And I still tell people today, like one of the most incredible feats that I ever did.
Wow.
Is that the one you rolled up into like a paper? I mean, you just rolled that baby
Like a burrito.
like a burrito. Yeah. I remember
Hey,
watching that. My mouth just kept dropping and dropping. I think I was standing next to Vince. He was elbowing me. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this?
I don't
Mark.
know why that dude wanted me to go back to being an asshole.
Mark, I've been reading a lot on different like strongmen and stuff. I love this kind of stuff. I grew up on the World's Strongest Man with Bill Kazmaier and the guys, Wide World of Sports and all
One of
that.
my idols.
I got to meet Kaz one time going through the Atlanta airport. I just randomly went up to him, and it was cool to meet, a guy you idolized as a kid.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk that you might be the strongest man to ever walk on the planet. And if you're not, you're in the conversation, which is incredible because that's
Wow.
billions and billions of people. So I want to ask you, I know we're jumping ahead a little bit. I want to ask you, though, take yourself out of the equation. If you're not say who would you consider the world's strongest man of all time to be?
Well, it's impossible for me to take myself out of the equation because of the stuff that I did. Like you saw the movie Conan that Arnold Schwarzenegger did, and the whole story behind that guy and the character is he stopped killing for the king, and he started killing because he wanted their swords. It became a sport to him to kill, and that's what happened to me. I had lifted so much in competitions that I was lifting by myself. I knew I was going to win when I got off the plane. Like there was nobody that was my equal. So I started traveling the world doing all the feats of strength that people said was done throughout history. And there was only two that I was not allowed to do. And one of which, because Terry Todd said he's 100% believed that it was phony. And then the other one was was in Halifax, Nova Scotia. You can Google the guy. His name was McCaskill, Giant McCaskill, and he lifted a 740-pound anchor. And I wanted to go and lift the anchor. And when I went up to Halifax, they wouldn't let me. It was in a museum, and they wouldn't pull it out of the museum and let me lift it. And I told them, I was like, look, I'm not going to get hurt. I'll sign anything y'all want me to sign. I'm doing this for my legacy. I'm doing it, because I know I can lift that anchor. And they were like, no, the last person that lifted it stabbed himself in the kidney and died, and that was John McCaskill. Wow. So the dude that it was named after died as a result of lifting that anchor. And they just didn't want to take a chance. And, like it's, I mean, John McCaskill was like Big Show. He was like Andre. He was a genetic mutant, 7 feet tall and, close to 550, 600 pounds. Like, so those you don't see people like that on Earth very often. And of course, they could do unbelievable things. But I wanted to prove that I could do it, and I didn't get the opportunity. The other one was the Paul Anderson had what they call a platform lift, where they would put like a bunch of weight on a platform, and then you basically climb underneath the platform and you lift it with your shoulders up off the blocks. And I wanted to do it. And Terry said, well, I hate to tell you, but we found we have some of the weights that, Paul Anderson had, and they might say 45 pounds, but some of them were 22, 23 pounds. He said, so like whatever that weight was is not an accurate measurement. You probably could, do that now. But I went to England and lifted Denny stones. I went to South Africa and lifted the Africa crest, the Africa stone. And, I don't know if y'all realize it or not, but like there's only about 2 or 3 plus 375 pound stones. And I lifted all 3 of them.
Wow.
And nobody else in history has done that. And then they had Thomas Inch had a dumbbell in the turn of the century. And it was called the unliftable because they would put it on the ground. And if you could lift it on top of this 1 foot podium, you would get a nickel in the circus. And he traveled all over the world, letting people try it. And they would pay a nickel every time, which the equivalent of like $5 today at that time. So like, imagine you make $5 1,000 times, you had a pretty nice, good payday. And he did that every day or every weekend. And that's how he made his living. And they said that nobody was going to be able to lift it. And the first time I touched it, I picked it up off the ground and raised it to my waist.
Hmm.
And then I told Arnold Schwarzenegger and everybody at the Arnold, next year, I'm going to lift it over my head. And they were all laughing and stuff. But that shit stopped real quick because the next year I lifted it over my head.
It's one of the
Wow.
best YouTube videos that's out there. I've watched it a couple times. The progression of you lifting it the first year and then the next year lifting it over your head, it's incredible to watch.
Yeah. And then Apollon, Adolf Apollon, uh, they used to have small trains that used to go through France. And Apollon used one of those wheels, one of those train axles, as a, they said that nobody has any evidence that he did it, but he said that he did. So we're going to go with that. And John Davis and Norbert Szymanski, both of those lifters lifted the Apollon wheels. And they were both the heavyweight strongmen during that time, their times. And when I got to Columbus, Ohio, I told Terry Todd, I said, I'm gonna lift it 3 times for all 3 people that lifted it in history. And Terry was like, "Hey, let's just focus on lifting it 1 time." And I said, "All right." And I did. I lifted it 3 times for the people that are supposed that people that lifted throughout history. So it's
Tell,
like,
tell, tell us a little bit about that Terry Todd too. He's an important guy in your career.
yeah, Dr.
Okay,
Terry.
finish your story there. I just wanted to make sure I remembered to talk about
Yeah,
that.
and then there's like the Venture Stone. So I traveled lifting all of these implements throughout history, and I did that. No other human has been able to do it. If they take the best strongman today, um, Hafthor Bjornsson, Eddie Hall, um, Brian Shaw, they couldn't do it. I've watched them try to do the inch. Nobody, they can't do the inch. So, like, when it comes to who the guy was, like you talking to the guy. I'm on my Ric Flair shit when it comes to when it come to who's the strongest person. Like I didn't have an equal.
You're not in the top five. You're in the top one.
Yeah, and you know what's
There's
amazing,
only
Mark?
a one.
You know what's amazing, Mark, is you're not talking about just being it's like they used to say about Kurt Angle. He was really good. No, he wasn't. He was the best in the world. So there's a big
Best
difference.
on earth.
A lot of people are really good. He was the best out of 8 billion people. That's a big freaking difference.
Yeah.
They're talking about you being the strongest man, literally, of all time. That is
Of
absolutely
all
incredible.
time, John.
Yeah, and I feel truly blessed to be able to have lived the life that I lived. But none of that would have been possible if it wouldn't have been for Terry Todd, because
How did he come into your life?
they read the stories about me as a high schooler, and when you have remember I told you about my uncle. When I heard my grandmother would tell me the stories about him picking up a wagon and him pulling 700-pound logs out of the woods, and I was like, bullshit, whatever. Like, y'all just trying to make me feel weak. Like that was my mentality as a stupid young kid. And but Terry had heard the stories about what I was doing and was like, that's bullshit. Like, it ain't no way that's the truth. And if it is the truth, then they pumping this kid so full of drugs that he ain't gonna live another 5 years. And so him and his wife Jan, they came to Silsby, and they to see me in a competition in Little Cypress, Mauriceville, and then they came to Silsby afterwards to meet me and talk to my family. And basically, Terry told my mom that he is the foremost expert in the world on the history of what we call physical culture, like all lifting, bodybuilding, strength for sports, and the training of people in sport. My education was in really is biomechanical science, like how bipedal animals get better. And you can look at my kids and they'll explain that you can see the difference between them and other kids. It's not just how the genetics of it, it's the fact that they lift correctly. Mm-hmm. That it looks easy when they do it because they do it right. And they're trained to do it right. And that's what Terry did for me. He showed me how to do things correctly, and he introduced me to the history. And he would say, "Look, if you can know what happened before you, then you can know how to change the outcome." And he talked about Hannibal and had me read books about strategy, and that's where the philosophical mark comes into play when I talk, and even when I wrestled. I wanted to tell stories that were systematic stories, because that's the way wrestling is intended. You get hurt and you can't do something, and you try it again, you can't do it, but then the power comes over you, and then you're finally able to do it, and you win, and now you collapse, and that withered, arm or leg or whatever, you can barely walk, but you were victorious. Terry taught me that, and he was the first strength coach. There was no such thing as a strength coach before Terry. He went to the University of Texas. Next time y'all come here, in the north end of the stadium is the Letcher Stark Center. They found it. It's a 22,000 square feet building in the north end of the stadium. It's the largest physical culture library in the world. And Gerald, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that I've probably read 50, 60% of the material in that library.
Wow.
And Terry knew everything about that library. Wow. I've held in my hand Jack Johnson's boxing gloves. Wow. And his the outfit that he fought in the World Championship. I mean, Primo Caminera, Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, like boxing stuff, but also they got Andre the Giant stuff in there. Wow. They got Milo Steinborn stuff in there. Like the Mighty Gama. Like, you Google the Mighty Gama. You talk, Iron Sheik was a bodyguard of the Sheikh of Iran. Mighty Gama is the Michael Jordan of all of the bodyguards. He didn't carry a gun. He carried a baton and a short, curved knife. And they said that he could kill 10 men without breaking a sweat. Wow. Like, so you go through this library and you see all this history of men that were greater than you. And you learn that, damn, I'm not the only one. And that's what Terry wanted me to see. But it took till I was probably 22, 23 before I realized that there was something greater than beyond my nose. Yeah. And, like, I spent the rest of my life trying to make up for it. And when I came into wrestling, bro, like, I knew I was a star. I knew that I could do stuff that other men couldn't. And I told you, we talk about Jim Thorpe and Babe Dickinson Zaharias and all of these famous athletes that were not only able to do one thing good in the world, but to do multiple things good in the world. I'm the only one that's still living. Right. I'm the only human walking Earth that's been a world champion in 3 different sports that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. No. And to be a 400-pound guy with a 35-inch vertical that could run a 5 flat 40, that was flexible like I was flexible, that was adaptable like I was, to learn wrestling, which I feel like, to learn how to be an elite pro wrestler, to learn how to be a pro wrestler, Jimmy Fallon can learn how to be a pro wrestler. But to be an elite pro wrestler, you got to have special gifts. You got to understand psychology. You got to have great memory. You got to be able to have some intestinal fortitude, and you got to be double fucking tough.
Wow, exactly.
And I respect everybody that learns our industry, but the ones that are at the top that I look up at and go, ooh, ooh, like I just have such a great love and respect for those people because they paved the way for me. And I know how hard it is and to be greater than that. I just, it's hard to put into words. And Terry was the guy that taught me that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, Terry, it sounds like he wanted you not to compare yourself to who you were comparing yourself to, but compare yourself to Zacharias Dixon, to compare yourself to the mighty Gama, not to who is around you right now at the University of Texas. You know,
Right.
that's a huge mind shift for somebody to take, but it takes a lot of insight into him to realize this guy's special. This
Special,
is
yeah.
who he should be comparing himself to.
Yeah, and that's what our military does. When guys and girls go to the military, they think one thing, and then they go through the fire and they realize, damn, when I wanted to quit, I had another 2 days of survival left in me. You learn how to survive, not just be better. You learn how to survive because they learn to kill. They learn to persevere through the pain. They learn how to organize systems, which is the biggest human flaw. We all think that we can do everything. We can't. Once you realize, the sooner you realize, I can't do everything. I need a team. I need a unit, and us all work together to make everything better. The sooner you're gonna be. That's you can't be Ric Flair without Ricky Steamboat and Dusty Rhodes and all of the elite guys that he went against, the Harley Races and people, because iron sharpens iron. Without the others, you're just a good-looking guy that could talk shit.
Wait a minute. I hope you're not saying you're a good-looking guy there.
No, I said Ric Flair.
Okay,
Hey,
Rick.
Rick was a good-looking dude.
Yeah, what is it, kid? Yeah.
But shit, I ain't never got by on good looks. I had
Mark,
Well,
what was the biggest thing that he?
sexual chocolate, man.
That's right. You were sexual chocolate. I don't know if you got by on something.
that's my favorite thing of all time.
It was me and Hans too.
Yeah, it was
We loved it.
Mark, take us there back when you were training to lift those rocks. I mean, what, 375 pounds? How do you train to lift something like that? Because each time you touch that rock, the weight is distributed different. How do you prepare yourself? Is it a mental job or what?
Physically, you have to slowly work yourself up to it. Like I would find stones that would be 250 pounds, 300 pounds, 325 pounds, and we would weigh them. We would weigh rocks and then take a hammer and chisel off some. How much you weigh now? Okay, that's 327. That's close enough. Like we would work our way up to what the ultimate standard was going to be. And you said something very, very interesting and insightful that is awkward and is different every time. The one thing that's not different every time is the technique. Like, when you do stone lifting, a lot of it is position. So in stone lifting, it helps to have long arms. I have incredibly long arms. So like if I squat and I grab something and I pull it to my chest, like my arms are long enough that I can grab my own elbow and I can get what in wrestling we call a hook or like a heel hook. I can dig into my own tricep and now I got a basket, I got a cradle. So now it's about pressing it and pulling it to your body and using your physical power at that point. I'm way stronger than 400 pounds. The hardest part is this. being able to control it and get it in position. And once I learned that, like stone lifting
Wow.
was like, pretty easy for me actually.
What was one of the main things that Terry changed in your training as far as the training itself? Because you grew up with a Weeder weight set where you'd pull the weight off the bench, you'd do a good morning to get it up to do a squat. You obviously had no training as far as weightlifting. What was the main thing training wise that progressed for you?
I did volume training sometimes, and then we did just pure power, like pure training for power. And I had never done volume training before. When I say volume training, where I would do a set of 10, and then I would do another set of 10, and then I do another set of 10 with a higher weight, and the weight kept progressing, progressing. And then you get to a certain point to where you probably can still lift it, but it's not important on how much you can lift. It's can you do 10 with it? And not only does it build your confidence, but it builds your endurance. And muscle endurance, like when I pulled those two semi trucks, I hadn't done that. I hadn't pulled a truck like that probably 3 years or 4 years. But my muscle memory allowed me to be able to still do it. Now, granted, I should call Vince and cuss him out because doing one, that was the do two. Like I don't know if y'all saw, like my feet were bent like this, digging into the ground to be able to push off. My feet hurt for about a month. Like it was, man, I was damaged goods for about a month. And at that point, you can't go home.
No.
The show is about you. Get your ass out there and pull that 15-minute match and and the promo and everything else. Like so that was it was pretty rough. Like same thing with Jim Ellis forgetting that, hey man, you got to go take a hacksaw to that damn master lock on the cage with you and Batista. He just got busy and forgot.
Yeah.
And for me to go out there and you go get a chain and put a master lock on it and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be humanly possible. And that's another thing that I did in my life that I feel like is going to outlive me. That was one of the most difficult things I ever did. It was harder than the Olympics, and the people in pro wrestling got to see it for a mere cost of a ticket to the arena because they should
On
have
live
paid
TV.
Yeah,
on live
live
TV.
TV.
They should
The
have paid
pressure
$1,500
wasn't
a
on you,
piece.
was it?
They all should have paid $1,500 a piece minimum.
Mark, you talked at one time about doing like tug of war with an animal, like a lion or a gorilla. Or did you ever come close to doing that?
No, Terry was so mad at me uh, because Vince wanted me to do this silverback thing, and and that was something that he was like, yeah, we could do tug of wars with horses and animals and this. And it wasn't. I didn't want to do that because there's little black kids all over the world that look like me, and as a derogatory, um, people have called us primates and gorillas and stuff all these years. The last thing that I was going to do as an Olympian and as a man is to go out there and portray an animal. Like I thought it was beneath me, and I said no.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
I'd heard in the locker room, I guess when they pitched it to you, was what it was. You mentioned it to maybe me and Ron about you were talking about doing. I didn't know if anything progressed or not, but it makes sense what you say. I just
So
didn't
I
know what
went
happened.
to Atlanta to the National Primate Center, and they had a famous silverback gorilla there named Willie B.
Willie B. Yeah,
And
I stopped by Atlanta one time just to see him.
there was another young silverback that was there, that they couldn't even put them in the same vicinity. They'll tear the whole world up. And so I went there, and like I am, if I'm going to do something, I want to know everything I need to know about it. So I went to observe them and study them and take notes. So I went to Atlanta and I saw these silverbacks, and I realized that, you know what, man, um, as beautiful as they were to me, I just didn't want to be compared to that. And but I got to see them in their natural habitat doing stuff that, man, I might have been the only person on earth as a human that could have got close to doing some of the shit that I saw. I saw that other gorilla next to Willie B was 580 pounds. And I watched him sitting on a ledge eating bamboo shoots and throwing the sticks on the ground like somebody, you ever seen somebody eating sunflower seeds?
Yeah.
And they just like spitting them and they throwing. He was doing that. And then at some point he got tired of everybody looking at him. He reached up with one hand and curled himself up on a ledge and went into this little cave. Now, a lot of people have been like, oh shit, well, he just got tired and left. That ain't what I saw. What I saw was a 560-pound motherfucker reach up with one hand and do a pull-up. Come on, man. Yeah. I don't know if y'all in the church with me.
No, I got you.
That deserves an amen.
I got you.
If that thing would have hit or grabbed a human, it'll detach it like a chicken bone. Like, that's the kind of power that they had. And I wasn't gonna, I mean, I just wasn't gonna like trivialize the human existence by way of comparing it to an animal.
Wow. Hey, speaking of chicken bones, remember when y'all threw chicken bones on us one time up in Nova Scotia or Halifax or somewhere up in the Maritimes? Me and Ron and Godfather, you and D'Lo and Mark Henry. I knew D'Lo and Taka Michinoku. I think it was chicken bones y'all threw out on us. But you threw something on our car.
That was because y'all were driving 80 miles an hour and hitting us, bumping us from behind. Y'all could have killed us. And Taka Michinoku was in the back seat, Gerald, and me and D'Lo was in the front. And D'Lo's driving, I'm in the passenger seat, and they pull up beside us first, and then they waving. And D'Lo, in all his damn wisdom, took the damn chicken bone out the box and threw it at their car. And John got this look on his face, and he just dropped back, disappeared. And I went, damn, like that, he almost had a wreck. And the next thing you know, boom, we get bumped in the back. And I looked back and I said, oh my God, that fool just ran into us. And Taka was like, he coming back. Go. His English got so good. and now we driving, we going 70 miles an hour. And John is boom. Like, man, we could have died. Like, man, that's attempted homicide. Oh my God, we were scared to death.
I'm riding with Godfather Ron Simmons and threw those chicken bones out on us. And Godfather's over there goes,
D'Lo threw chicken bones.
Yeah.
Don't do that to John, please. Come along. There's so much so many stories in the history of wrestling that are so entertaining that, like, man, the WWE could do 100 shows, and you wouldn't hear the same story twice.
Mark, that's what John and I say all the time. You know, we tell each other these stories, and we believe them because we've experienced some form of them. But you're sitting there at a bar telling one of your friends, your local friends, these same stories. They look at you. That's the biggest bunch of crap I ever heard.
So when I came up to Waterloo, I got to sit with you, and you told me how y'all traveled the road, and your brother from another mother, like, did you throw a snake on him or did he throw a snake on you
I threw a
in the
snake on
bathroom?
him. I threw a snake on him. Oh, but that's just a regular little black snake, though.
John, I would have died.
I would have too. I hate snakes.
I'm so scared of snakes. If he, it would have been shit everywhere.
Oh yeah, I
there,
would have come unglued.
there was, by the
I'd
way.
have come unglued.
Yeah, there was, and I mean, and not only did we do it to Rocky Johnson, we did it to Bob Armstrong, and Bob was more afraid of snakes than we are. And Bob literally tore the bathroom down, getting out of the bathroom, then threatened to kill all of us. The one with Rocky was really good. We were leaving Savannah, Georgia, and all those little gimmick stores, the firecracker store down in South Carolina, you can buy those little rubber black snakes. So one day we stopped there and I want to buy a snake. So I bought me a little rubber black snake. So we're there, we're going back to the airport. We're doing a double shot. So we're going back to the airport. And all of a sudden, I think Robert Fuller's driving. I said, Robert, pull over. I see something. Robert, of course, knows what I'm doing. So he pulls over. I have this plastic rubber black snake in my pocket. So I reach in, I reach out, I drop it down on the ground, I pick it up, and I leave the door open when I get out. About that time, Armstrong's looking Rocky's looking out the door, and I throw that black snake in the damn car. And I thought we had to replace the interior of that car. Literally tore the damn seats off their safety rails and was cussing me. I thought he was going to kill me before we got to the airport. That rib cost me about $500 to repair to those seats, but it was worth every penny of it.
Oh my God, that's
Hey,
so
Mark,
good.
Rocky Johnson hopped out of a moving plane one time with Mr. Briscoe because somebody caught the plane on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rocky
Yeah.
Johnson jumped out of the plane as he was about to take off because Mr. Briscoe or somebody was smizzing in the bathroom
Yeah.
and caught the
Yeah.
plane on fire.
Yeah, we were one of those old load stars, one of those Sky King airplanes, a tail dragger. So we're on that airplane. We're headed to Miami. Everybody loaded on the plane, So I don't know. I'm not going to throw anybody on the bus, but somebody went to the bathroom and smoked in there before we took off.
Yeah.
To
I wonder
relieve
what they're smoking.
Somebody. I don't know who that
Somebody.
but somebody went in there and smoked just to kind of calm down, from the day. So, but the smoke hadn't cleared out of the bathroom. But as we're taxiing on the runway, that door pops open. When the door pops open, smoke starts bellowing out of that down little stall, little stall they have in the bathrooms there. Rocky's sitting in that last seat there. Rocky literally jumps up, turns the crank on the damn door. The door drops down. It's dragging. And Rocky jumped out of a moving airplane, a taxiing airplane, and we couldn't get him back in there. I don't know why.
I don't know why.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
Yeah, but
Just the greatest ribs would be a TV show that I would like to help host, because just so I could hear all of the stories of the greatest ribs.
Yeah.
Because I was with Owen Hart.
Oh, wow.
Man, Owen, he was fantastic.
He was the greatest. He was one of the greatest. I've been around several generations, and Owen was one of the best ever.
Man, and you mentioned golly,
Armstrong?
Bob Armstrong.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wrestled Bullet Bob.
Yeah.
Really?
And, yes, in Knoxville, Tennessee, the K-Town SmackDown. And I just got so much respect for the man because I knew who he was. I grew up watching him at WCW, and I just kept on looking at him, and they was like, "Hey, you gonna work with Bob Armstrong tonight?" And I went, "What?" And they were like, yeah, you gonna work with Bob. And I was like, oh my God. I just, man, I just could not believe it. And I got, I went over there and I was trying to talk to him, and he was like, so what's your finish? What do you want to do? And I went, what do you mean? And he was like, what's your finish? What are you gonna beat me with? And I was like, I'm not beating you. I said, you crazy? I said, I already got heat. I said that if you do the favor, you're gonna kill my career. All the wrestlers gonna hate me. They already hate me. I was like, you please don't do this to me. And he went over and he told me, he said, you the only wrestler I ever met that didn't want to go over. And I was like, you know what? I'll be that guy, because it ain't nowhere in hell that I'm gonna go back and say I went over on Bob Armstrong.
Wow. You know that's fantastic. I love hearing that. But that's just that internal respect that we have for each other in the locker room, and sometimes, guy, I mean, as I say, Paul Bosch come up to me in Houston one time and said, "You're going over Blackjack Land 2 times. That's 2 straight falls." I said, "No, I'm not." He looked at me, "What do you mean? You're coming back with a Harley?" I said, "I'm not. There's no way in the world." Well, he let me, and there's no way in the world where the people believe I could beat Blackjack Mulligan in 2 straight falls. So,
Oh my
of course,
God.
we worked something out, and Mulligan came to me later and said, "Thank me." I said, "No, I was just preventing myself from getting killed out there, Bob." But it's that internal respect that you have for each other.
Yeah.
You know internally what's right and what's wrong, and that's what separates a lot of guys. And that's really part of making you the star that you are too.
And Gerald, the people that wouldn't have done it, I had no love for.
Uh,
Yeah.
And man, there's a lot of people that we all know, and ain't no reason to mention no names, but Ryback, piece of shit. There's not many people that they care about how they're perceived over the business and over what's right.
right. Mm-hmm.
And I just hated that.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things when I first started wrestling that I had trouble with, because Jerry Lawler, if anybody on earth should have been able to beat me, like, it should have been Jerry. Jerry was like the greatest. And he did the favor for me. Like, and Vince was explaining to me what doing a favor was. And when he was explaining it, I went, wow. I said, why is he doing that? He said he volunteered to do it. He said because it wouldn't hurt him. He said tomorrow he's still gonna be Jerry Lawler. If you beat somebody else, it might hurt their career. And I went, damn. Like, people don't realize how intricate and important what we do psychology wise
Right. Exactly.
is. That's what it's the magic.
Yeah. That's the magic right there. Right.
I just wish that I just hope that these NXT people are getting that kind of understanding, because I know the business is different. It's different. But everybody that I brought into wrestling, that I recruited and scouted, and I talked to them on the phone and mentor, they have my mentality.
Yeah.
Every last one of them. And if they didn't, I would be like, man, you might want to part ways with them.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned something. Business is different. It's different in the hold and the moves and the stuff, but the respect and the psychology backstage is still the same. I mean, it's got to be the same. Or we're losing a big part of our business. We're losing the magic part of the business, like you
The
say.
magic is going away.
Yeah, and that's a shame. But anyway, we're talking about pro wrestling. let's take us back to Mark Henry. Your introduction, Andre the Giant was your favorite competitor. You got to see him, and you took a bump before Andre even touched you. Tell us a little bit what happened there, Mark, and what enticed you to what was the love of this business?
Every last one of us has been to a wrestling event as a fan, and you see the wrestlers walk into the ring, and you're trying to reach out and touch them, get them to high five you or something. And I was no different. I was at the Beaumont Civic Center with my grandmother, and I'm up on the bicycle rack. I got one foot on the bicycle rack, one leg up in the air, and I'm reaching out. Andre's coming down. Like there was no music back then, so it was like he could hear me. I'm like Andre. I'm reaching, trying to touch him, and these fucking kids behind me, they trying to do the same thing and push and knock me over. So now my feet are on the top of the bicycle rack, and I'm in a push-up position, both my hands on the ground. And Andre is like the look on his face went from him being Andre to him going, and I'm looking up like this, and bro, he underarm picks me up like a child. I'm 10 years old, maybe. I'm already 200 plus pounds. He underarm picks me up and puts me back on the other side of the barricade and keeps moving. And I was like, man, that Andre, like everybody kept touching me because he touched me.
Yeah.
Ain't that crazy?
Yeah.
So like all the times we take it for granted that we walk to the ring and we high five people, we changing people's life and didn't even realize.
And you never know what moment sticks out with people because you might have 100 interactions that day, but that's the only one they've had. And so to them, it's something that you might hear years later. Hey, remember when you did this? And you don't always remember because you go through hundreds of different interactions with fans on a day of a show and stuff. But to them, it matters, and that's what's important. And you never know when you can touch somebody. It's one thing that like Stone Cold and The Rock. That they were always so good about stopping for people and making each person feel like they were special. That they would take the time, they'd look them in the eye, and that left something with those people for the rest of their lives. It's a pretty cool trait that a lot of people have.
And you can take it too far, like Rey Mysterio. Like John and I both worked Rey on top in main events when John had the title and Rey had the title when I came after. And I wanted to just hand him a beer and shake his hand and tell him thank you. But Rey would stay out there for an hour.
Oh my goodness, would he? Yeah.
I'm like, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the respectful thing. You're not going to leave until they come back. Nope. So you got to say thank you and appreciate it. It's about on a live event house show. Rey would stay out there. He would greet all 20,000 people.
Like, Rey. I'm showered, got all my stuff packed in my bag.
Yeah.
Pushed against the wall. I'm just like this.
Parking lot's empty.
Yeah. And I'm just like, come on, Rey.
Come on, man.
And it got to the point to where I would just, as soon as I got showered and everything, I would just call my wife and say, well, I'm here waiting on Rey. And she was like, well, it is what it is.
Oh, absolutely.
You wanted to be in the main event? There you go.
The boys are already to the next town. You're sitting there just waiting, waiting on Rey to greet everybody. Yeah.
And now Cody Rhodes apparently has turned into Rey. Everybody's always on his ass about hurrying up and getting in the bag.
Right.
So that interaction you had with Andre the Giant, were you thinking then that you're a big kid, of course, or were you thinking that I'd like to do this someday, or what was your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I never thought about it. I just was a fan, and at least 3 or 4 times in my life, I did things where, me standing on one leg lifting, and me at slam dunk contest, doing like Hulk Hogan and like stuff. People already assume they like, wow, this dude do all the wrestling stuff. And that's when Vince and them caught wind of me being the character that I was. And Terry and Milo Steinborn, Milo called Vince and said, "Hey man, this kid is a big wrestling fan. I know his coach very well. Um, like you should take a look at him." And that's how it started.
Did you know Milo personally too?
I didn't. I
Did you
only
know
met
did you
him.
know Dickie, his son?
Yes.
Okay,
I mean after the fact.
after okay.
Like this was after 93, 94, 93, 94. I met them.
I used to go over to Orlando early, go through Milo's house and look at all his trinkets there. My God, that was you talk about a museum. I mean, it was everything in the world you could dream of
Did
as an
you did
adult.
you see all the stuffed alligators and uh
Everything.
like tigers and
Yeah.
bears? John had a Kodiak bear, stuffed bear. Imagine being a 19-year-old kid doing this, just looking up, going, "Is that real?"
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh my God, that dude, he was very eccentric.
Yeah, I don't know whatever happened to all his stuff there, but I hope it's in a safe place.
I bet Jen and Terry got it.
Yeah,
I don't have no doubt that they
yeah.
did. I
Good. I,
guarantee
I
you.
hope I
If
hope
you
so.
come to the North End, the next time you come to
Yeah,
Austin,
yeah,
I'll call Jan and
yeah.
we'll go to the library.
I'd love to do that, man.
All that stuff is in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So you're going along, and you're developing this character, world's strongest man, but you're also developing that Mark Henry character there too. So who makes who? You said Milo called Vince or Terry called Vince and said, "Oh, you want to take a look at this guy?" How did that happen?
Milo called Vince, and then Vince called Terry. And then Terry said, "Well, I'm gonna give you the phone number to his dorm because he's at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs." So, I remember getting in from practice probably about like 4 o'clock, and somebody said, "Mark, telephone," because we lived in a dorm where it was an old army barracks. There's only
Yeah.
one phone in on the floor. So I walked down to the phone, and it was Vince, and he's like, "Hey, Mark, how you doing? It's Vince McMahon."
Did you think it
And
was a rib?
I thought it was a rib, and I was like, "Who?" And he was like, "This is Vince McMahon," and I was like, "Yeah, right, Wes," and hung up because I thought it was
Wow.
Wes Barnett.
Yeah,
Like we watch wrestling together every week,
yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh, that's Wes acting like Vince," and I go back to my room, and then the phone rings again. And they said, "Mark, phone." I go down, it's Terry Todd. And I go, "What up, Doc?" And he's like, "Hey, did Vince McMahon just call you?" And I went, "No, wait a minute. That was Vince McMahon for real?" And he was like, "Yeah, I think you should take his call." And I went, "Oh shit, my bad." Like I hang up and I'm sitting by the phone rocking like this. God damn. Oh, I can't. Oh, this is embarrassing. And the phone rings and I answer it before they cling. "Hello, hello." And he said, "Mark?" And I said, "Mr. McMahon, I'm sorry. I thought you was one of my friends." He said, "It ain't the first time somebody hung up on me."
And
And that,
right there,
that was
right
it.
then, did he pitch the idea for you to come in? Because you were one of the first guaranteed contracts, right?
That was I was the first developmental wrestler. I hadn't got to contract status. It took 3 more years before we got to that. I was the first guy that was not in a territory that they made a wrestler out of him.
Right.
And um, I take a lot of pride in that being the first one.
You
And
should.
the first one went to the Hall of Fame and had the success that I had, even though um, the deck was stacked against me succeeding.
Well, Mark,
But
seriously, it was horribly stacked against you because I don't understand. For me and Mr. Briscoe, it's completely different. We had by the time we got the big time, we had 1,000 or 2,000 matches
right,
all over the world. We had this huge educational background. By the time you got to the big time, you had zero matches.
zero.
You're learning on global television, which is exactly what you don't want to do.
John, my first match, I went over with Lawler 45 minutes before we went out. I had never
That's
had no
unbelievable.
training. I had never been in a wrestling ring other than to wave at fans. How you doing?
Wow.
And I ran down to the ring and I got in there with Lawler and he walked me through that and I felt like $1,000,000. And I think the first time they say is always your best time because you're able to really be in awe of it. Because at the end, John, I'm sure that it got to be that's what I'm supposed to do. And that was you had to make yourself get fired up, but like that first night, that I remember being at the curtain and Gerald, like my heart was like I could feel it through my skin. I've been to the Olympics. I performed in front of 3 billion people. Like I've been on big stages, but that was the only time that I ever in my life felt like nauseous, like I was going to throw up. Huh. Like stand that first night, and I tell anybody that'll listen, the first night when I went out there and had that match at In Your House with Jerry Lawler, that I ran down to that ramp with a smile, but man, I was so scared. Like I just never felt nothing like that before. Like it ain't no sex, it ain't no money, it ain't no accomplishment that I ever felt like that first night.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable to be out there with a guy like Lawler who's such a pro. And he was the perfect guy,
Yeah.
as you said before. He was the perfect guy because he's calm, he can walk you through it. Right. He's had 1,000,000 matches. And that's a real art to have a veteran like that who can take somebody who's never been in the ring before and have a match on a pay-per-view.
Right. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
At what point did you start getting comfortable in the ring? Like at what point, at some point, because I can tell because I called a lot of your matches later, you got not only comfortable, you got where you enjoyed it and looked forward to it. That's a complete different mindset. When did that transition? When did you first start thinking, you know what, I'm starting to get this?
That's when I came back from Canada. I came back from Canada and I had trained with Leo Burke for a year and Rodney Blackbeard and Stu. I felt like I could handle myself, and I learned how to shut the hell up because, like, if it came to my mind before, I would say it, and I acted off impulse a lot, and then I went to Louisville from Canada. I didn't come right back to WWE. So in 2000, 2001, I was in Louisville and Rip Rogers was my coach. And Rip was like, hey, you fat bastard, I want you to have a Broadway like everybody else before you leave here. So you need to get in shape and you need to, be able to work the part. And I remember when my day came up, like it was my day to do a Broadway. And I'm just like, man, it ain't no way that I'm gonna be able to fucking do this hour. It ain't no way. Because the most I went was like 20 minutes, 22 minutes. And all that training, 7 months down there, led to that day. And he said, are you nervous? And I said, yeah. And he was like, that's the point. You got to get over being nervous. That shit gonna blow you up. He said, be a pro. Like Rip was brutal, man.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was the most brutal coach I ever had. And I got in there and I was in there with Nick Dinsmore. And I mean, 20 minutes in, I was huffing. And then I got that second win. I was like, oh shit, I actually can breathe.
That feels so
And,
good.
oh
Yeah.
my God, it feels so good. It's like somebody rubbed Vicks
Yeah.
all over your face, and now you.
There's nothing like it, Mark. Sometimes about 12, 14 minutes in a match, you think, I'm about to die.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
all of a sudden, around 20, 25, you think, I'm fine.
I'm good.
Yeah.
So now I'm 30 minutes in, and I'm starting to get like slow to get up off the ground. So I didn't want to take no more bumps. And so we doing the reversals. And I told Nick, I said, uh, let's do the 10 cover spot. So, when you teach wrestling, you learn the 10 different covers. So I'm just trying to throw something in there to waste time, to run that time. So we did 5 covers, and I was blown so hot, so sky high that I had to pull myself up on the ropes. Now it's 38. They said 39 minutes. And I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna make it an hour. And we got the 43 minutes, and I took a clothesline over the top to the floor, and I couldn't get up no more. And like, but for to be able to be in that ring for 43 minutes told me a lot about myself, and it told me a lot about my training, because I could get in the ring any night and I could do at least 30 minutes of material. And I was not going to offend the guy that I work with. That was the point.
That's the point
I
there.
needed to learn enough that everybody in there with me was going to be safe and was going to go home the way that they came in the ring. And you know what, man? Like, um, everybody make mistakes, but I never hurt nobody.
You said a key word there, and it's so important for our fans to realize to be safe. I mean, you look on the other side of the ring. I mean, if I'm coming out, I'm looking over. I've seen a 350 pound, 400 pushing 400 pound monster, and I know he can break me at any time. So whatever goes through your mind, as your opponent is, wow, is he going to hurt me out there? But once you give your opponent that confidence that, hey, I'm out here, I'm going to take care of your body just like you're taking care of my body. Then that pressure kind of ceases, and you start relaxing more. But you're fighting that right off the bat just because your sheer presence of your
Yeah,
physical size, not only your physical size but your strength that goes along with it. So, I mean, guys got to get in the ring. I mean, you backstage, yeah, sure, but going to the ring, they got that in their mind, man, this guy could hurt me in a flash. And I'm just praying to God that he don't. But you gave the guys confidence that you wasn't in that position, you wasn't in that business to hurt somebody, and
right.
that's what elevated you so quick too, I think.
But
Yeah,
Jerry, one of the things also is like with a guy like Mark Henry, you know how it is, Jerry. With a guy that's not that strong, they can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
When they try to pick you up. The guys that are really strong, and there's Mark's the strongest man in the world, they can be really safe. Because there's times I've worked with Mark, and it's like jumping in your mama's arms. I mean, you just that you know what, I'm fine.
Yeah.
He can carry me all day.
Yeah.
We
yeah,
never none of the boys ever thought that Mark was ever anything but safe. There was
We
never.
gave him that confidence at the early part of his
That's
life,
right.
that
yeah.
his career, that he wasn't out there to hurt guys. He was out there to make the match go.
Gerald, I also got the ultimate compliment one time. Um, when WWE or WWF at the time bought WCW, they knew what they were going to do with Goldberg, but they didn't know how how far he could go, because the longest match he had ever had was 5 minutes, bell to bell. And Vince came to me, called me in his office, and said, "Hey, we're gonna put Goldberg over you tonight, and I want him to have a competitive 50-50 match, but I need to see how far he could go. How long you think you can go with him? And I said, I don't know, whatever you want. And I'm thinking to myself, Rip Rogers. I say, I'm gonna get in there and we're gonna move around a little bit, and I'm gonna test the strength. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I had like hours worth of material set up in my head, but I knew we wasn't gonna use that much. And that was the first match that Goldberg went 10 minutes. He had never been more than 5, and when he forgot and when you get tired, you start, where we at? Like, what's next? Like he had never been there. In all those years, that was his first time. And you go online and pull up the match. We had a good ass match. It was 11 minutes and change. And from bell to bell, it was 11, but it was like 9 minutes of wrestling. And I take a lot of pride in that match because
you should take a lot of pride, because that's a real sign of respect by
yeah,
vets to
and
go to a veteran and say, "Hey, listen, we need you to get him through this point, because here's
right.
where we want to go with him, and we need you to get him there." And that's a real sign of respect.
Yeah, and that's the way I took it. And um, you know, I've been in world championship matches and everything in between. And when I think about the most respect that I got was that match.
Yeah. Mark was for the sexual chocolate, to me, was the greatest character maybe in the history of the world.
Yeah,
It was so well done. You and Mae Young, it was just the greatest thing. It was the greatest thing ever. But you and all of them, it was the greatest thing ever. That had to be a blast working with Mae Young.
it was, man. Like Vince was, man, he did not want to do it. And then he got mad that it got over. And and I thought um, I told him that it was going to work though. Like I didn't want to. It wasn't about the winning. It was about the entertaining. And he was like, "We spent too much damn money to get you over, and you want to do comedy." And I was like, "Vince, it's going to work." Like, you know. And when we started doing it, they started doing a bunch of different, like all of the stuff with China and the stuff with Mae Young. That was all WWE. But before then, the matches that I had where I'm trying to get the girl out of the crowd and I'm leaning on the barricade and the guy tapped me on the shoulder. I'm like, go on, man, go on. I'm talking to my girl, you see. And bang, they hit me and throw me in the ring and we do the business. Like, even win, lose, or draw, I always went back out and was like, hey, take my number down.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody loved that.
Yeah.
But it was like China's uh, part of it was great and so memorable and so much fun. But it was Mae Young that really that got it over.
Yeah.
And man, it was like the easiest, funnest time in my career. And I got to ride in the car. I like riding with Mae by herself. When I had to ride with Moolah, like Moolah liked to stop and eat, and she had a tiny bladder, so she had to stop 5 times. Like if we were driving 200 miles, I'm not bullshitting. We would stop 6 times, and I was just like, I can't do this. I can't drive them because Moolah wanted to stop, and I wanted to hurry up and get to the town. There was some strip club I had to go to.
Yeah.
And she was just ruining it for me. But I had a great time with them, man, and I learned so much. Like Mae told me about her life story, and um, I just was like blown away. Like I didn't know that she was who she was. You
Yeah,
know, like
she was so respected in that little Sand Springs, Oklahoma, where she grew up. She was the only girl that made the boys football team. Now, when you're talking back, right after the war, I mean, her doing stuff like that, making the wrestling, going out for the men's wrestling team, she's still respected there today. That's unbelievable.
Did you know she won a national championship in baseball?
Yeah, yeah, she did all that stuff. Yeah,
And playing she well in softball, but she also played baseball
yeah.
with the boys
With the boys. Yeah.
and had 6 home runs
Mhm.
like
Wow.
her senior year.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, can you imagine being a fucking kid
Yeah.
that you throwing the ball to a girl and you
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna give her the high hard cheese, and
Yeah.
she send that shit over the
Whoop.
fence. But
Well, I was so lucky in that thing because I got to be godfather to you and May's offspring too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
hey, I tell anybody that'll listen, if you ever want to be entertained, there's nothing in Hollywood that was ever funnier than watching Gerald Brisco get sick, watching Pat Patterson rib him. I remember Pat was like, hey, I need this to be very nasty and funky. Do you have like some goop and some and Richie Posner, remember the
Richie,
Magic
yeah.
Man?
Yeah,
Magic.
magic, yeah.
And Richie was like, yeah, I get it, I get it, I get it. And they put that hand in that all that goop and stuff. And it was like Pat was like, Gerald is gonna love this.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
They were like, Mark, I'm like, fucking be serious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't.
Be serious.
We
She's
had
giving
trouble. We
birth
had
to a
trouble
hand.
going through that.
I
Yeah.
said, I
Yeah.
can't. And I'm just hysterically laughing, putting my hand over my mouth like
That
this.
was all. That was all Vince too. Vince said, "Put Brisco in there because Brisco will throw up."
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Vince and Pat were talking
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
slime.
Yeah.
And like it wasn't my job to stooge it off, so I just kept my mouth shut. But I remember when Pat when the ER guy pulled the hand out and that slime drip and
Whoa.
Gerald just
We
he turned
Started
green
heaving, man.
and he threw up and I just lost it. I was done. I was belly laughing. I tried to back out of screen. Like, oh my God, it was the best time I ever had in wrestling. I'm so glad that I was able to share that with you.
Thank
That
you,
was
Mark.
the best, man. Oh,
people have panned that. I think it's one of the greatest things ever. Mae Young gave birth to a hand. I
so
I don't know why it
John,
was a hand, but it was
I'm
awesome.
going to tell you, and I don't know if I've told this on no podcast before, but I asked Vince, I was like, Vince, look, I started tearing up. I said, Vince, why, of all the things that it could have been, why a hand? And he said, it was good shit. I was giving you a hand. And I went, have you ever had a CAT scan? There's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like he's oh my God, what a character. What a character.
When Vince goes into that's good shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Once he get there,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're done.
Yeah, you're done, man.
It
You
ain't
can't stop it.
changing. It's
Like George Costanza, you got to leave the room at that time.
yeah, he Vince didn't want to ever be wrong. He didn't ever want to be wrong. So like there was a time when I was failing and I was making him wrong because he was the one that was going out thinking, no, this is going to work out. This is going to pan out. And I was not making, and he told me one day, he said, I don't like being wrong. I don't like failure. He said, like, you making me look bad. He said, you need to get your shit together. And I said, man, like, I'm big on respect to people. Like if you go out for me, and that was kind of one of the turning points of me getting my shit together is that talk I had with him. And it wasn't about no fear. It wasn't about no, bullying or no shit like that. It was honor and respect, and I didn't want to let him down, and I turned it around.
It's an amazing thing with Vince. Those of us that worked with him, like in that relationship, like you had with him, like I had with him, like Jerry had with him, you didn't want to let him down. I mean,
No.
everybody says the same thing. I mean, when you let Vince down, you felt terrible. It's a crazy, crazy thing that everybody that during that time felt the same way about him. You didn't want to disappoint him.
Yeah, and he's going through a tough time and all of the stuff that happened recently and stuff. I never saw none of that. I
No.
never heard no negativity like that. Him playing a damn joke on me was the worst of it. Like, where I felt like, okay, that infringed on the business. But it was nothing remotely bad that I had to say about Vince. And I took some heat for saying that before. People, oh, you're being insensitive, and there's other people that suffered. I said, yeah, but a lot though. Some of those people that y'all talking about suffering, they suffering got worse when the money ran out. Like, where was the suffering when they was getting BMWs and $1 million? When was that? Where did that pacify the suffering? Because if you're suffering, you should suffer all the time, right? Nothing should get in the way of that. Like I just, I don't know. I just come from a different time,
No,
and
and I agree. Yeah, I don't know.
I
I have
agree.
no idea what happened and what's truth and what isn't. I'm not, and
I don't know.
I'm not diminishing any of it. I'm just telling about my personal relationship, and all I saw was
That's all we can speak about is our
all we
personal
can speak
relationship.
about. When I had a personal relationship with Vince was fantastic, and he was very very good to me and very good to a lot of old guys that he didn't have to be good to. So I don't, you hate.
Man, I think about all the times that uh, I was in the office and um, Mark Carano would come in and Vince would be like, "Hey, um, how many legends are going to be at this event?" And like, I don't know. I think like Sarge is going to be there, and this person. He said there needs to be at least 10 or 15 guys get a payday. He said call them. He didn't have to do that.
No.
Right.
Like, so when you saw those old guys showing up, Baron von Rowski and people, and Vince handing them $1,500, he didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
He did that because he wanted historical presence on the show, but he also wanted to give them a payday.
Right.
Just giving money away.
Yeah. That's how he operated, and that's the reason he has the respect of all the old timers like that. Mark, tell us now. You're out basically. You're a free agent now, but you're
Hey,
now
hey, Jerry, right before we do, I got one more wrestling question. And I asked Mark because I thought it was one of the greatest segments ever. Mark, is your retirement speech the most proud moment of your career?
Oh God, thanks for bringing that. That's the
Because
only
it's the
time
most proud moment I've ever seen. That
that's the
thing
only
was
time I
great.
ever called him and chewed him out.
Mark, I could watch that every day of the week.
Yeah.
Now to the day I die, which I hope's a long time away.
Thank you for bringing that up.
That was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. It was just you're sitting there just fishing, 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 and all of a sudden you set the hook, and it was just magic.
That was the best work that I ever did.
Yeah.
And I told Vince that I really wanted to retire. And for whatever reason, just like everybody else that go in that office, I came out with a I came out with a 3-year deal.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Shawn Michaels said one time he walked in to quit. Vince goes, "We'll talk about it later." He goes, "I just quit."
And that was um I said, well, I really did write my speech that I want to retire. And he was like, well, let's do it. And I went, what do you mean let's do it? He said, well, like, would you go and retire? So I knew this 6 months out. So for 6 months, I just, planted the seed with everybody. Basically, like Big Show said, lied through my teeth. And I mean, Arsenio Hall, and it's on the ESPN sports ticker. Mark Henry set to retire from WWE. And
And Mark, that was before the days when ESPN even mentioned us on air.
right, they didn't
Yeah,
have a relationship.
yeah, yeah.
And Big Show, man, I had Gerald called me and cussed me out.
I was hooked, brother.
Big Show left me a voicemail that I still have on my phone that I should play to people one day. And I'm sitting on my couch, you motherfucker, and I'm crying with my wife. And then you go and do that shit. When I see you, I'm gonna punch you in the face. And he hangs up. And I had people calling me that I didn't even know. I'm like, how did you get my phone number? Like, I don't, Hulk Hogan, like Terry called me, and I'm like, hello? And he's like, hey, brother, it's Terry. Terry? Terry who? Terry Balea. And I was like, Hogan? And he's like, hey, man, I just want to let you know that that might have been the best piece of work I ever saw. And how long did you know that you were doing that? And I said, probably about 6 months. And he was like, wow, wow. He was like, I'm just, I'm just sitting here and I've never been got before. He said, I always could smell it. I could see through it. I know wrestling when I see it. He said, brother, that wasn't wrestling. He's like, I was like, wow, thank you, man. Like, I appreciate it. And that's the only time I ever had a conversation with him. Like it was just crazy. Like Josh Brolin, who we have a mutual friend, and well, y'all know Freddie Prinze.
Yeah, yeah.
And Josh Brolin, big wrestling fan. I mean Thanos, like
Oh yeah.
one of the best actors in Hollywood. And he calls me and he said, hey, I hope you're not upset, brother, but I got your number from Freddie. And I just want to let you know it's the best thing I ever saw in wrestling. So like when I was getting those type of calls and I just was like, what the hell just happened? Like it, my back, I broke my back like 6 months before that with Brock. And I'm actually going to have surgery at the end of the month, finally, based off that injury. And I really wanted to retire because I was in pain. And I was told not to get back surgery. If you get back surgery, you got to keep getting back surgeries. And I was like, so I'm not going to do it. So what I ended up doing is just doing rehab and therapy and stuff. And now the vertebrae is shifted and it's bent like this. I'm going to text y'all a picture. You're going to be like, holy shit. And they're just going to fix it. They're going to take out that scar tissue and push those nerves back in the right place and then put a bracket in and make my spine back straight again. But the John Cena was the one that was like, you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Vince, that's what he want. You get a man what he want. And um, he just made that so easy. Like even there was a lot of spontaneous things that happened. Him handing me the title and saying you deserve this, and me saying no. Like you don't never hand a man a title; they got to earn it. Like all of that stuff just happened by way of um, just your respect and understanding of the business. But everything else, like it was planned out. it got some levity in there a couple of times. People in the crowd, I talk about my wife and they bring up Mae Young, and I'm like, not Mae Young, you dummy. Like and it was just like a very fluid thing that happened. It was meant to happen in wrestling, and I'm glad that it was me because it put a button on my career.
Nobody else could have done it like that either, Mark.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It's something I can watch to this every day. It's just fantastic because you're sitting there watching it. And then when you see the swerve, you go, genius, just genius. I love it.
John, like my wife, this is my second time that I didn't answer, so I have to answer. Jana, I'm I'm on a podcast with Gerald Brisco and Bradshaw. Their podcast.
You call me back. I want you to tell you what I need to tell you. Just call me back.
All right.
And, yeah,
I'm not at the strip club. I'm actually.
a cigar. All damn night.
All right, no cigars, no strip club. I'm good.
That's great.
Bye.
And Jenna, I never been to a strip club with Mark either.
Yes, you did.
Oh, come on, you killing my gimmick here.
She hung up. She hung up.
Good.
So, Mark, before I cut off Jerry, so what are you doing now? You're booking the Caribbean? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, like I met with the Ministry of the Caribbean and with a guy named JB, and we worked out a deal to do shows in the Caribbean islands. So we haven't been to Bermuda yet, but we the Bahamas and Trinidad and Jamaica. We actually have one coming up here pretty soon on the 19th in Jamaica. It's a makeup show for when the hurricane came through. We got we had to cancel the show, but we're gonna do a makeup. And I worked out a deal with MLW Wrestling to do a versus. So like we're gonna do company versus company, and I'm just I always like the story of Ernie Ladd booking, and I've been around Jack Lanza and Gerald and Dusty and seeing what those guys did, and I always like that. Like it's just a respect level that you get from guys that understand what it is to book a territory, and I that's another thing, Gerald. Like I appreciate y'all showing us how all that stuff works because there's a lot of wrestlers that kind of like Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic. They were great athletes, great players. They can't coach. And, y'all taught us how to interact with the talent and how to lead them and how to coach them. And, I appreciate that. I'm enjoying it too.
Well, it's something you got to pay back with. I've been trying to put on a wrestling camp in the Bahamas for like the last 4 or 5 years, and I haven't got the proper connections yet.
No, let's do it. Like I got the contract with the entire Caribbean, like all of the ministries. Well, they say ministries, we say government. Yeah. We worked out deals that nobody else can't come in there. Good. And I got that from Vince. Like
that's great.
If you're gonna book a territory, don't eliminate the competition.
And by the way, the Bahamas are my territory, by the way.
Well, come on down.
Well, I know you got my son coming for.
I slipped under the radar and went down there and worked out a side chick deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mark, also the other thing you're doing, Bubba Dudley gave me some of the numbers that blew me away. Busted Open Radio, you guys are just killing it.
Yeah, like man, we do about 600,000 listeners a week.
Wow.
And we're in Australia now, Canada, Germany. Like we big in South Africa. Like we're international now, and that Sirius XM um, they value us now, and we're gonna go. I think really soon we're gonna go to full 24 hours a day programming.
Wow.
And
That's
on
great. Good
the
for you
channel.
guys.
So like, it's good to be back the number one in the podcasting world. But I love the fact that we have the best show in the world. 7 days a week, rain, sleet, or snow. We busted open. It's killing.
You get tired of
Let me plug this in because my battery thing just flashed.
So, Jerry, you lost the Bahamas.
I know it. I lost it there. I lost the phone there too. And I'm trying to turn it off here. What I do here, John?
You're fine, Jerry. The phone doesn't matter. You're going to shut your computer screen off.
Do what?
You're going to don't do anything. You've been on here this entire time.
Where'd Mark go?
He
Where'd
went to
Mark?
plug in his computer, Jerry.
Well, why'd you let him do that, John? We're not finished yet.
Well, that's why he's plugging in his computer.
Okay, cool. Good. I lost the Bahamas to Mark. I couldn't lose it. He booking my son down there, so I don't mind. So
Well, at least one Brisco will be making money down there.
yeah, at least one. Yeah, yeah. Now, what a fantastic place island that used to be for wrestling too. All the Caribbean. Mark, I was just telling John, I can speak on experience. The Caribbean island, there's nothing like it for wrestling.
No, it's not.
We're on a plane one time. We're going into St. Lucia. I believe it's St. Lucia. Rocky Johnson was over like crazy from Florida TV down there. Where it was like the old school days, you see a plane land, you see that like when the Beatles landed and JFK or LaGuardia, wherever they landed, and the crowd started chasing them down. We had Rocky Johnson on the plane. They knew who was on that plane. They were literally chasing our airplane down to the end of the runway. The pilot had to stop. He couldn't make the loop turn around. They had to send cars down, police cars down after. But the plane was surrounded by fans down there. It was the most unbelievable thing I'd ever seen in my life, man. And that night, well, unfortunately, we were in a drive-in theater, and they assembled bleachers up, and of course they oversold. And of course, what happened to the bleachers? They all collapsed on us. We're putting on a show, and all of a sudden, I'm sitting there watching the early matches. Just see these bleachers coming down like accordions there. Holy cow! They're dragging people in the dressing room, giving them CPR, giving them first aid and all that stuff. Next match,
Y'all killed them.
Yeah, yeah.
As long as I'm working with the company, you still got the Bahamas.
Thank you.
Like
here's to a long life for you, brother.
Listen, I love it down there.
I do too.
If it wasn't for my kid being in school, I told my wife we should move to Bermuda or
it's a long
to
commute
the
to Norman,
Bahamas.
Oklahoma from
Long way from the kids. Hey, when Jacob and Joe are out of the house, Gerald, I'm done. I'm moving to the islands, and I'm going to live a very slow life.
Yeah, I've planned that for many, many years, and I'm still here in Florida. I went as far as bought a condo one time in Hawaii thinking I'm going to move over there. It took me a day to get there and a day to get back. And I said, no, that's too far away. The Bahama Islands are Costa Rica is close enough for me.
Gerald, I was so mad, and you don't have to put this on the podcast, but like they oversold tickets. I said, man, you can't do that. Like, don't those people will never come back. Like, that's just 101 old school
Right, exactly.
promo.
Yeah.
Like you gotta stick to the history of the business. And so this past last month we worked out with them in Jamaica. Now we're gonna have this new center that they built about 2 years ago hold 3,000. We already 70% sold.
Awesome. Way to
That's
go,
awesome.
man.
Good for you.
3,000 in Jamaica.
Well, John and I are available.
Well, I tell you what, man, if y'all want to come, I will make it happen.
Cool.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's easy. That's easy.
Man, that's easy. All you gotta do is just come and wave. And I mean, don't stick me up for that full fare that you do for being on the announce team.
No. We'll give you the Jamaican discount.
There you go.
Well, Mark. Hey, Mark. Hey, thank you so much. We took a ton of your time. I could have talked to you all day. I still could.
And still talk to you some more, brother.
But thank you for coming on.
That y'all want me, like I'm here for you, man. Y'all both did a lot for me in my life, and I learned a lot. And it's just love there. It ain't just like we work together. Like
that's right.
We were family.
Yep.
Yeah, well, Mark calls me dad, and I call him son all the time. So we love each other, man, and I'm sure the feeling mutual towards John up there. That other
absolutely.
Texas there, so.